to Friday, everyone. I am so excited to be here with Colby Jubenville. He is an author, an educator, a speaker, a coach, and he is with our emerging leaders just about every day. And I'm so excited to welcome him to the program. So, Colby, welcome.
Hey, Paula, how are you? And I'm Paula's friend, so I'm so happy to be with you and so impressed with all of your assets in the way that you deliver content. So thanks for making time for me on a Friday, and look forward to unpacking this with you today.
Well, it is a special broadcast for you. And also, I want everyone to see I'm cheering still the Ohio State Buckeyes, who are playing right now in March Madness.
I didn't even know they played basketball there. That's great. I thought it was just a football school, and I didn't even have the basketball in it.
Well, they're rebuilding right now, but they're doing good.
Yes,
so,
ma'am.
Colby, tell me a little bit about yourself and tell our audience.
Yeah.
Now, I know how special you are, and that's why this is a special broadcast, but let's inform everybody.
Well, I feel like we were destined to connect, and obviously we connected through Jerry Scher and Harrison Assessment. But the simple story for me is I'm an educator that was born to two educators who taught me the way you take on the world is to become an educator and marry an educator and educate other people. And that works until you want things like lifestyle and freedom. And lifestyle to me is not the car you drive or the house that you own. Lifestyle is getting paid for your value versus your time. And freedom is doing it with the people that you want to do it with. And so I've been fortunate enough to be able to do both. I've been able to work in higher education for the last 20 years and have evolved into having my own center for student coaching and success, where we do one-on-one coaching using the Harrison towards gainful employment, God forbid, for students to help them become gainfully employed prior to walking across the stage at graduation.
That would be great.
Yes, that's what you make the investment for. And also work with select clients throughout the country in team dynamics, in building better teams, in emotional intelligence and personal branding, and have made incredible relationships along the way, like my good friend John Byers, who is hopefully here listening today. And John and I have a podcast, and it's called the GOAT Consulting Podcast. And it's really about the stages of relationships and business and life.
That's amazing. When is that podcast? When's that on?
We release it. Actually, John releases it. That's above my pay grade. So John releases that every Monday, and we have fun. We have great guests. We just recently had Sean Henry, who runs the Nashville Predators, along with that big building in Bridgestone. And last night I was there at a Morgan Wallen concert. We'll talk about that in a second. But fantastic guests who compete on unique perspective and unique education and unique experience. And certainly I think that's what you do as well. And so I look forward to spending a few minutes with you talking about the next generation of leaders.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much. Like I said, this is a very special broadcast to me. And, you're not available on Monday, so we had to get this in for our listeners today. So, we talk about unique and innovative and our up and coming emerging leaders. And what are they facing today? What do you see in your higher ed classes? What are you seeing that are some of the challenges that they're facing, and how music can help?
Yeah, and I don't think it's just in the classroom. I think it's in the world too. I don't think that we have a crisis of knowledge. We have more access to knowledge than any other time in the history of the world. What we have a crisis of is consciousness. We have a crisis of competence. And where I see the real opportunity in developing leaders for the next generation is first get them to understand the consciousness piece, the self-awareness piece that you talk about in side B. And then from that consciousness, develop a new level of competence related to that. It makes me think of, and I know your entire platform is built around music. So all my answers today are tied to music and musical moments. Okay.
Yes.
And so my first musical moment is A Star Is Born with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. And seeing that John is listening, he's everywhere. You got to watch out for John Byers. And so they had this moment, and they're sitting at this bar, And it reminds me of what you're asking about emerging leaders. She is emerging into this opportunity to become this superstar.
Uh-oh. Did we lose you? Hold on. Colby? John, can you hear me?
There we go.
There we go. Perfect. Okay, so she's emerging into this superstar.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that was just a little teaser to get people really excited to see if they were paying attention. But she says to Bradley, do I really have the talent? And Bradley is the coach to her that's been at the top at one time, and he says talent comes everywhere. Talent comes everywhere, but having something to say, that's a whole nother bag. And saying it in a way that people will listen. If you don't try it, you don't know it, and you can't do it.
Yeah.
That's self-awareness. If you don't try it and you don't know it, you can't do it. And I think that's the opportunity that we have in front of us today. And so obviously the show goes on and she is born and she becomes a star. And that's the same thing that we hope happens for our people as well.
Right. Well, that's a great analogy because, I talk about intention and being intentional a lot, and that is what it is. It's really understanding and trying and doing and finding your unique voice and that self-development, because we're not getting that. We are all getting, which we've talked about on the show, the side A, which are all the resume building skills and characteristics that we do. But the side B, we are really lacking that in most every job.
Yeah.
So if we can be intentional to understand what our side B behavior is, then we can marry the two together and actually what I call will be my next book is have a double A side, right?
Yeah.
I think Mick Jagger coined that term, that double A side. But I just love that.
Well, and I think it's important for the audience to understand that your side B concept is built around the emotional based skills, the people and relational based skills. It's the hidden side, but yet it's really what leads us to find the success that we all find in our careers and in our life.
Yeah.
And so what does the next generation look like? I know that that's an important piece. What do they need to be intentional and focus on? Right. I mean, that's a question you constantly ask yourself. I teach in frameworks. Everything that I teach is in frameworks, simple, predictable, easy to understand, bite-sized information that people can use and unpack with other people as they continue to develop relationships. And so what I think about developing intentionally when it comes to their side B, their emotional intelligence. What we know about emotional intelligence is it's the number one predictor of performance in the workplace. We know that it can be taught and learned. We know that those that have it perform at a higher level than those that don't. Now, that's the easy stuff. That's the punch you in the face stuff. The hard stuff looks like this. Here's number one, why it's important. The leaders today, the next generation of leaders today are commanded to know more about their employees. That's number one, know more about your employees. Number two, so that they can get close to their employees, get closer than they've ever been to their employees. And number three, to emotionally connect to their employees. I think that's what we're going to see with leaders over the next 3 years is this movement around knowing them in an emotional way that allows them to connect in ways to have the success that both group wants to have.
Right. And it does lead to success. And that's where, I remember being asked many years ago, what is your secret sauce? And I could never define it because I didn't really understand it. But I'm probably more of a side B than I was a side A. But I've grown my side A. But I think my secret sauce at the point at when I was in corporate America was understanding and knowing and appreciating the people that I worked with.
Yeah. Understanding them. My secret sauce is the Hattie B's sauce. That's at Hattie's B's Chicken in Nashville. John knows about that. But to your point, think about this. An employee goes to work. They say work says we want four things from you. We want you to sell something, solve a problem, create something, add immediate value.
Right.
The employee is sitting there saying, I want these four things from works. I want opportunities to learn, grow in responsibility, contribute to others, and be recognized. And once both people understand what they want from work, all those four things that I just said are side B pieces. Opportunities to learn, grow in responsibility, contribute to others, and be recognized. Those are the emotional pieces that connect them to the work. Gainful employment. I've been asking people, students and people, what is gainful employment? And in the last 5 years, what I have found is people cannot tell me what that is. This term has fallen out of vocabulary, general vocabulary in the circles that I run in and talk to. And when gainful employment, again, I teach in frameworks. Gainful employment is about meaning, purpose, and contribution in the work that you do. Meaning and purpose and contribution. If we know that people are looking for meaning, purpose, and contribution, then why wouldn't we build systems that amp up the meaning and the purpose and the contribution?
Exactly. And get that all the equal loyalty.
Yes. Well, I mean, you had, is it Carol Stizza that you had? I mean, her quote is still so powerful, where she said, in one of your sessions, she said, our brains are constantly scanning for two things. Where we're going to go where we're loved and appreciated and respected, and we're going to go where we can be developed. And I think and she said it best. She said, if they don't get developed in your garden, they'll find another garden to grow in. And I think that is absolutely beautiful. Mm-hmm. But asking yourself, how can you emotionally connect to your employees, I think, is what the next generation of leader looks like today.
And to do that, you have to emotionally connect to yourself and bring your whole self to work.
Yeah. One of the things that I believe is that we're taught as a society that if you want more, you have to have more education. You have to have more opportunity. You have to have more experience. You have to have more recognition. But in reality, where that starts, if you want more, you got to have more of yourself. Yes. That's where we have to start. And so let me tie it into a moment that happened to me. I think it's prophetic that I get to spend a Friday with you after a Morgan Wallen concert. I will tell you that it is difficult for me to go to concerts these days. I am at that point where if the music is too loud, you're too old. Well, that has happened for me. And so I'll
get you some earplugs.
Yes, I need them. We bought tickets for my daughter. It was my daughter's birthday, Mary Burke, and we bought tickets for her and her friend to go to Morgan Wallen. Well, my wife thought it was going to be my daughter and her, and Mary Burke informed her that no, it's going to be my friend and me, not you. You're not going. And so Katie was like, well, why don't we just go up and have dinner and we'll hang out? And I'm thinking, thank God I don't have to go to this concert, And that's not me. 20 years ago, I'd be the guy, we're going to the concert. And so on the way up there, one of our friends calls and says, and I can hear the phone call. I'm in the front seat and I can hear the back, oh, you have 2 tickets? Oh, they're free? Colby, do you want to go to the concert? Katie, do I really have a choice about going to the concert? So we go to the concert. It's incredible. And I think a moment happened in that concert that I think will certainly represent and reflect the side B in people. Yeah. So it's a Morgan Wallen concert. I will profess to the audience that I am only an amateur at Morgan Wallen up until last night. I've listened to his music all day today, and now I'm a believer. But he sang this one song called "Somebody's Problem," and I wrote down the lyrics to talk about today. But I have not memorized them yet, but I will. But somebody's problem. I'll read you just the first couple of lyrics. A Bama red 4Runner pulled into the party with a 30A sticker on the back windshield. two-tone tank top slipping off her shoulder, kind of girl when she steps out makes the world stand still. Now, let's just put the lyrics. Let's put country music. Let's put Morgan Wallen to the side. What he said before he sang this song was, the crazy thing is, the way this song came about was we were pulling out of the grocery store, me and this guy that write these songs together. And we were about to go. The light just turned green. And this red 4Runner came flying by with a 38 sticker on the back. We almost got killed because the girl was flying and almost hit us. And I turned and I looked at the guy and I said, "What was that?" And he said, "That's somebody's problem." Now, the minute that you hear that story, it makes you think about the song in a completely different way.
It sure did, didn't it?
And so, because the girl was upset, the girl was speeding somewhere, she was distracted, and this whole story is about how she's somebody's problem, but she's about to become his.
Mm-hmm.
But what I love about that story is that I think it speaks to the need and the opportunity you saw to help other people see their side B and the self-awareness that they can create. And that's the first piece in creating understanding to build relationships and connect with people in new ways.
Thank you. I appreciate that because, it is the lyric for me.
Yeah.
And from, once you understand a lyric and how it affects you, it could be totally different from
Yeah.
somebody else. But if it's intentional to get you motivated to close a sale or to motivate your team, or even having a frustrating day and you hear, let's say you hear Bono on the radio, or Bob Marley is who I was listening to today, Three
Yeah.
Little Birds. It just relaxes you. And that is intentional.
Yeah.
And that is what I'm talking about, being intentional about your side B.
Yeah. It's the relationship that you have with the music.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then the relationship that you have with others. John and I on the podcast, in the Go Consulting podcast, one of the things that we have several frames that we work from, but one of them is that the key to any business is personal relationships.
Right.
And if we
Right.
believe that personal relationships, if we start off as task-based leaders, and then we realize and move into relational-based leadership and realize that everything gets done through relationships, then it would make sense to say, okay, how do I intentionally build relationships? Well, the first person that you build a relationship with is yourself.
Yep.
And it ties directly back to your side B. But if we do say relationship, and wherever I go, people will say, yes, the key to my business is personal relationships. Well, the most important word in there is personal.
Mm-hmm.
So the question then becomes, how do you build personal relationships? And I think, and it goes back to, and I've ordered Carol's book, but it goes back to asking questions.
Yes.
And those questions to me, there's 4 empathetic questions that I think you ask when you build personal relationships. And I think the first is, where are you from?
Mm-hmm.
If you understand where somebody is from, it helps you understand their unique perspective, your unique education and experience. I tell people, you don't just walk up to somebody and you say, hey, where are you from? What you do is have the ability to say, I'm from Mobile, Alabama. It's the birthplace of Mardi Gras. I realized at a very early age that you could either stand on the sidewalk and watch, or I could get in the parade, and I chose to get in the parade. That gives the other person the permission to say, well, I want to tell you where I'm from.
Right.
And the minute that you do that, it changes the relationship. So the first question is, where are you from?
Mm-hmm.
The second question is, what do you believe? If you know what somebody believes, if you know what you believe and you can articulate it, then other people can make the decision, are they going to connect to those beliefs or not? If they don't, they're not your kind of people.
That's right.
And so one of the things that I believe is that in education, the greatest opportunity we have is to help students find their voice. the intersection of talent and passion and conscience and need in the world. If somebody else doesn't believe that, that's fine, but that's what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
The second question is, what do you believe? The third question is, what matters to you? And think about this. This is all about music. What influences music? Where you're from? What
It
you
does.
believe? My friend John Byers, who's watching, all he listens to is hip hop. I don't listen to hip hop anymore. I grew out of that, but John still loves it. What matters to you? And here's the takeaway. Once you understand what matters to someone else, then you can be the best at what matters most. What if you had a relationship with somebody where you understood what matters the most to them? Hey, Paula, we're going to do this because I know that it matters most to you. And every decision that we make is around what matters most to you.
Exactly.
And then
could you believe a leader like that? I mean,
yes,
that's amazing.
And it all ties back to music. One of the cool things that we do on our show is at the end of the show, we ask them to, and John dreamed this up, to pull out their playlist and say, what are the last 5 songs that you've listened to, or the songs you like the most? And it's so interesting to see what people's playlists are. They have playlists for when they've got some adversity. They've got some playlists when they've got some success. They've got some playlists to get them going on a Monday. So music is everywhere, and it's the emotional touch point for all of us, I think, that connects us.
I have a quote here from Bono from U2, and then we'll get to your fourth question, your fourth one there.
Okay.
He says, music can change the world because it can change people.
Yes.
That's exactly what you're talking about.
Absolutely. And my fourth question is, tell me about the relationship with your parents. And if you can get someone, and again, you start by leading the way. Good leaders make good followers, and good leaders go first. And so my parents were both hippies. And so growing up on Saturdays, the rule was you could pick any album that you wanted to. But that album was used, and we would clean until the album ended. And whenever the album ended, that's when you could stop cleaning. I mean, how genius are these educators? And so you'd go through, and you got to pick the album. So you're 9 years old, and you know you got to do your chores, but you're going to do it to the Eagles' greatest hits, and or Neil Young, or New Riders of the Purple Sage, or the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's. And I mean, and you loved it. So music has always been a huge part of my life.
Oh, that is amazing. Now, see, my parents were very different. My dad was military. My mom is an educator, but a very strict educator. And so we got up after swim practice. I had to go to swim practice on Saturday morning, then come back to do my chores.
Yeah. That was part of my life too. 5 a.m. walking to Spring Hill Swim Club.
Yep. What was your stroke?
Butterfly.
I was a butterflyer.
Yeah, I was like 6-year-old, 7-year-old high point of Mobile. I still have a little trophy in my office today.
That is awesome.
Hey, you can't hide from swimming. Either you can do it or not. This is not a team sport.
No.
Either you're going to get in there. You know, they call it child abuse today, but my coach, Rory Hartley, who I still talk to and love, he said, Colby, if you go down to the other end and take a breath, I am going to beat you with this kickboard.
That's right. That's right.
We learned very quickly not to take breaths.
Not to take breaths on the turn. No way. I tell you, my coach Scott Thomas, he was the same way.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was a grueling sport. And I wrote an article on this, a blog on this, because you know, now they have earbuds for the pool. We didn't have it where we could swim. So our mind was thinking the whole time and coming up with our own music. So I just absolutely love having you on the show here. Is there one piece of advice that you would give our listeners today about how to prepare for the next generation?
Well, you know, there's a theory by a woman named Harder that says this. It's called competence motivation theory. And what it says is that human beings are built in such a way that if they will master one thing, then they'll want to master another thing. And if you think about your kindergarten years, what do they teach you how to do? They first said, let's learn how to write your name.
Yeah.
Let's learn your colors. Let's learn your numbers. And I think the takeaway is very much reflective of what we need to be doing as adults. We need to understand what are the core skill sets, what are the core competencies, and certainly the Harrison provides that kind of information. But if we know that communication is the greatest soft skill, then ask yourself how you want to develop that and just begin focusing simply on that, on being a better communicator.
Mm-hmm.
Master one thing, and that leads to mastering another thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the great communicator from the Harrison that I do is the bass guitarist.
Yes. Yes.
Because the bass is so rich in sound.
Absolutely.
So it's clear and effective communication.
And I know that you've got like a 3-part series that you're doing on leadership and lyrics as well, right?
Yes, I am. It should be coming out April 1st. It's going to be Lyrics for Leaders. It'll just be a series on really how to identify lyrics and how to think about them differently.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really, really cool. I think it's really, really needed. I think, George Washington Carver said, when you can say common things in uncommon ways, you can command the attention of the world. And I salute you and your movement and Side B. And as I said to you on the pre-call, I'm always blown away with StreamYard and all the other content tools that you've created and continue to push out to the world. We live in the knowledge economy, right?
That's right. That's
no one understands your value. Put yourself in a position to use it. And you certainly continue to do that every day. And so I'm a fan and will continue to watch and make sure that I know what my Side B is for sure.
Oh, I believe you know what your Side B is. And I'm very, very proud. You almost have the full band. Almost have the full band.
That's right. Yeah. Well,
I
mean, now you can introduce me as this is my friend Colby. He's a one-man band.
He's a one-man band. All right, Colby, thank you. If you'll stay on for just a moment,
yes,
I'll talk to you here in a minute. Hey, I just want to thank everyone and thank my special guests on this special edition of our LinkedIn Live Next Generation. And hope March Madness is going well for you. And again, our thoughts and prayers go out to all the people of Ukraine and that are fighting for that. Make it a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.